Okay, so obviously this is gonna have spoilers, so spoiler alert ahead of time before I even talk about anything. Um, Avengers Endgame. This movie, I was not prepared. This movie was it was an emotional roller coaster. Again, spoilers. So like if you complain about spoilers in this video, like if you jump in the comments and you complain about spoilers, we're all just gonna laugh at you because you were told ahead of time that there were spoilers. The death of Iron Man was crazy. And honestly, I thought Captain America was gonna die. I was so sure Cap was gonna die. I thought they were gonna keep Robert Downey Jr. going because it's Robert Downey Jr. He's like, I can make an infinite amount of money by being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The death of Black Widow, like she's not coming back. She's gone forever. Her soul was exchanged for the Soul Stone, so she's in the afterlife. Gone. The only way they can get her back, and I don't know if the MCU will do this, the only way they can get her back is they would have to travel to the realm of Mistress Death and barter for her soul and get her back that way. That'd be the only way to really do it. But the movie was it was everything I'd hoped it would be. And here's a cool thing. Watching the movie, it feels like the finality, right? Like they could stop here and just be like, and now we're done. We're no longer making any comic book films. Like it felt that way to a degree. But the cool thing about it is that it does continue on. Now, here's an important thing. This really the thing that like everybody missed, right? And I feel like so many people missed this. So the big talking point with Avengers Endgame is the idea of like multiverses, right? So for those of you guys who aren't familiar with this, the Marvel Cinematic Universe uses Marvel Comics branch universe theory, right? What that means is that there is a singular timeline in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? So we can say that all the events that we've seen in the MCU, every single event that's ever taken place from Peggy Carter to Captain America to Iron Man and all that kind of good stuff, all the movies we've seen are all along this main timeline. And the way this plays out is that you can travel, you can jump back and forth in different locations, and you can basically shift things up, right? So like what if Tony Stark never became Iron Man? Right? Like there's a universe where that happens. You have to have a cause, you have to have something that instigates that, but like Howard Stark never dies. Tony Stark never takes over the, say that never happened. Say you go all the way back, right? Say Bucky Barnes never fell off the train in Captain America, the First Avenger, and so Bucky Barnes was never frozen in ice, he was never discovered by the Russians, and he was never turned into the Winter Soldier. If he was never turned into the Winter Soldier, that means that Howard and Maria Stark never died, which means Tony Stark never inherited his father's company as young as he did, and then he never became Iron Man when he did, because there was no reason for him to, right? Like being the head of a company that was creating weapons, that was killing innocent people, that led him to become Iron Man. If his parents never die, that never becomes the case. So like that singular act branches off a whole other universe where things progress accordingly. So you have a Marvel Cinematic Universe where Tony Stark never became Iron Man. If Tony Stark never became Iron Man, he was never approached by Nick Fury for the Avengers Initiative. Because he was never approached by Nick Fury, the Avengers were never formed. Like there's all kinds of things that can come out of that. Now, from that alternate reality, then there's other alternate realities. What happens if Tony Stark ends up becoming Iron Man in that alternate universe, but he's a bad guy? Like he becomes a villain, right? He works alongside the Mandarin or becomes the new Mandarin. What if like he takes the extremist tech, it drives him crazy, and then he wipes out humanity? I mean, there's all kinds of different scenarios to play out in that. But the gist of Avengers Endgame was they said, okay, us traveling back into the past, taking the Infinity Stones from where they were, bringing them to the present day, snapping our fingers and fixing everything is going to create an alternate reality. It's going to create an alternate universe. The only way to basically fix that is to take the Infinity Stones and put them back where they were before, the moment they were taken. And so in a sense, they basically fix the present and the past at the same time, and it creates a loop, right? It creates a loop that's not a paradox. Because the question that you would ask is, if they travel from the present into the past to get the Infinity Stones in order to fix the present, but then the present, like everything's basically undone, then what motivation would they have in the first place? Well, they fixed that by basically saying like, yes, this happened, we're not stopping Thanos before the snap, we're undoing the snap, therefore everything from Infinity War still progressed the way it was supposed to. There's no paradox there. And so if Scott Lang or whoever were to hop into the time stream and literally ride that quantum realm wave all the way through to the present day, they would see it. If he did it like a million times, he would see the exact same events take place. Everything in the MCU happens up until Infinity War. The leftover Avengers go into the past, take the Infinity Stones, come back to the present, undo the snap, and then drop them off in the past again. That's the nature of how this film unfolds. Here's the thing everybody missed. The timeline was not fixed. The timeline was not corrected. The timeline is still screwed up, and Captain America's the one who broke it. And here's the reason why. The idea behind this was that everything basically it was a sneak mission, right? It was like how Scott Lang said it, a time heist. They had to sneak in, get the Infinity Stones, and leave without anybody knowing, so no one would know that they were there. They wouldn't conflict with their past versions, so nobody could know what was going on. Now, for the most part, a lot of that stuff was sorted out, right? Like Tony talked to his father Howard, but Howard had no idea that it was his son. Captain America ended up fighting himself and then used the Mind Stone to wipe his mind. So like you have like these things where it was basically sorted out. The Ancient One wasn't going to tell anybody, because the Ancient One was well enough to basically know, hey, look, if I tell people, it's going to screw up the time stream, so I'm not going to tell anybody that I talked to Banner. Like, Natasha Romanoff died, but I mean, like her death, not that it was meaningless, but nobody else knew about it except for Clint Barton and the other Avengers, so it's not like it impacted the greater timeline. And she was essentially, she was a hole in the universe, right? Like, she had no family, she had friends, but that was basically it. She didn't have any kids she was leaving behind or anything like that. And even if she did, they could just chalk it up and say, well, she died in the Vanishing when half the life in the universe was wiped out and she got dusted like everybody else. There's a zillion ways they could write it out, but they were supposed to sneak in and sneak out. No one was supposed to know they were there, fix everything, and then sneak back, drop everything off, and then sneak back out again. But Captain America changed it. Because the reason why was that at the end of the film, when Captain America was basically given the Infinity Stones and then said, hey, look, your job is to go into the past, to drop them off to where they're supposed to be, and then come back, he didn't. He stayed. And the fact that he stayed changed everything, because the entire basis behind the formation of S.H.I.E.L.D., SSR, like Peggy Carter, Chester Phillips, all those guys, was all based on the notion that Captain America was believed to have been dead. Trying to create a better world in the name of Captain America was their motivation for doing everything they did. But if Captain America didn't die, what motivation, or if he wasn't believed to have been dead, what motivation do they have now? What this does is it basically opens the floodgates for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to do anything they want to now. Because essentially what they've done is because my thought going into this was, okay, so they basically wrote themselves into a hole in terms of bringing anybody else in, right? Like bringing all these other characters and bringing in the X-Men, different things like that. How do they possibly do it? If anything, it makes my theory work even better on how they, like at least my plan on how they can roll the X-Men in now. Because if Captain America goes into the past, he stays with Peggy Carter, he has a life with her, she inevitably develops Alzheimer's, she ends up passing away, and then Captain America's sitting there in front of the lake with like Sam Wilson and Bruce Banner, and then Sam Wilson, Bruce Banner, Bucky Barnes, and then gives Sam Wilson the shield and says, you're the new Captain America now. Like, what that basically means is he outlived Peggy, but he had that life with her. Presumably they had no children. There's no reason for us to believe that they did, because if they did, we probably would have seen it. So in that regard, Captain America was probably careful insofar as like, I don't want to screw up the time stream. I don't really know how that conversation unfolds. Hey Steve, do you want to have children one day? Well, Peggy, I would love to, but I'm technically from the future, and if I did, it would screw up the time stream. Oh, okay, love. Like, I have no idea how that conversation would unfold, but still, what this means is that the motivation for why things happen the way they did with regards to the SSR and S.H.I.E.L.D. have changed dramatically. We know that like Nick Fury, like none of that stuff with Nick Fury in them, it's all still pretty much the same. It's not like Nick Fury wasn't there. We saw him at the funeral of Tony Stark, right? So like that told us everything we needed to know. Like Nick Fury still becomes director of S.H.I.E.L.D. The cool thing about this, and the reason why this is so important, is all the things we don't see. We don't know what Steve Rogers did with SSR. We don't know if Steve Rogers told them, hey look, so like Hydra is basically operating inside you guys, and like that guy right there is the one who's leading it. So take him out and everything will be okay. Like, we don't know if he was doing anything like that. We don't know if, because here's the thing, and I've been saying this. Let me tell you something, man. I've been saying that. I've been, amped, hype. I've been saying this for a while. Here is the thing. Wolverine. Give us Wolverine, and just say that Wolverine is just like a project of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Hydra or whatever. But like literally, you can unfold that in any number of ways. You can say that like because of the fact that Captain America was there now, like S.H.I.E.L.D. took more of a direction where it was more conducive to how Captain America envisioned it or how S.H.I.E.L.D. was supposed to be without Hydra being in there. But you can still say that like there were little Black Ops missions and things like that. You can literally say like Captain America was the one who recruited James Howlett to bring him in order to turn him into Wolverine. There's infinite possibilities now. There's no limit to what they can do, and it's so cool because like it's a different timeline now. It's essentially a different timeline. Everything's basically changed now. And that's what's so cool, is because it kind of ends on the note of, no, everything's fine. Everything's still basically the same, but that's the way the multiverse works. It's like like people perceive the Marvel multiverse in this idea of like, so every universe is drastically different, right? I mean, like look at Infinity War, right? Like people were looking at Infinity War and they said the 14 million possibilities that Doctor Strange looked at, like they're all like just like these drastically different things. No. It's a multiverse, an infinite number of universes for an infinite number of possibilities. It just happens to be that only those 14 million universes pertained to like the events unfolding with the Avengers fighting Thanos. There's a universe out there where Thanos shows up on Earth and joins the Avengers. There's a universe where Thanos joins the Guardians of the Galaxy. There's a universe out there where Adam Warlock wakes up earlier and then he gets the Infinity Gauntlet and wipes out Half-Life the universe. There's a universe out there where Nebula gets the Infinity Gauntlet, and there's a universe out there where Thanos was never born, or Gamora killed him when she was in her younger years and basically got the Infinity Gauntlet herself. There's all different kinds of universes out there, right? And so because of that, some of the changes in these universes are huge, are massive, and some of the changes are minuscule. Like you end up having Peter Parker, who joins the Future Foundation instead of joining Tony Stark. The Future Foundation was the think tank that was created by Reed Richards. Or Peter Parker joins Horizon Labs at Max Modell instead of like Stark Industries. There's all these different things out there. Just because things look the same does not mean they are the same. That they could be like totally different, and they are. Captain America staying in the past and living a life with Peggy Carter changes everything. And how far that change goes, we won't really know. It could be that like everything's the same now, except that like now Wolverine's on the scene, or like now Deadpool's here. Like they can literally use that as a means to say like, here's everything Captain America did, and here's how it all ties into how things were supposed to be versus how things are now. It's an awesome concept, right? It's a really, really cool concept. So it's one of the things that people tend to forget, that not every timeline is starkly different. Some timelines are very, 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 very similar, right? Like in Marvel Comics, you've got a timeline. What is it? In the main Marvel universe, Jean Grey became the Dark Phoenix. All right. Everything, and there's an alternate reality where everything happened the exact same way, but the only difference is that Jean Grey stays crazy and destroys the universe, and that's it. Like she just rises to power and wipes everything out, and that's the only difference. It's a big difference, but it's the only difference. But everything else that happened up to that point was exactly identical. That one thing made the difference, and that's all it ever takes, right? That's all it ever takes for that scenario, and we see that play out in comics all the time, right? Like in Doomsday Clock, kind of sidetracking from the MCU for like 2 seconds. In Doomsday Clock, Dr. Manhattan moved the Green Lantern out of reach for Alan Scott, and so Alan Scott gets hit by a train and the Justice Society of America never gets formed. Like it's the exact same thing. All somebody had to do, like Captain America could have gone back and like misplaced the keys of Stephen Strange, like moves them to a different location, and like it takes him 5 extra seconds to find his keys, and that 5 extra seconds makes the difference between him getting in a car wreck and him not getting in a car wreck. Like that's all it ever takes. That's all it ever takes. And Captain America going into the past, staying in the past, living a full life with Peggy Carter, Chester Phillips, and all those guys, knowing he's alive, basically changes everything now. And it's so cool. So we are in an alternate reality. Like we're in an alternate universe now. This is not the same Marvel Cinematic Universe as it was before. There's no way it can be, because things are changed. It didn't happen the exact same way it did before. It happened the exact same way as it did before, except that Captain America stayed. And it's not a small thing. It's not like it's Scott Lang, right? I mean, Scott Lang's cool and everything, but if he decided to stay into the past, it probably wouldn't really matter that much. But Captain America was like, his perceived death was a major driving force for pretty much the entire intelligence and like military arm of the United States, right? Because you had the Strategic Science Reserve, and then SHIELD was formed later on, and then SHIELD absorbed the SSR, and everything the SSR had developed all went forward as a singular SHIELD entity. But all that was predicated on Captain America, the perceived death of Captain America. So again, it's cool, and it's really, really wild, and it's really, really awesome. But I absolutely loved Endgame. Oh my God, I loved Endgame. I loved it so much. That movie, I'll probably go see it again, like at some point. That movie was nuts. It was so cool. It was really, really long, but it didn't feel exceedingly long. It felt like there were like everything was important. I loved the first third of the film. Oh God, it was like the saddest thing ever. It's just like everybody's like moping around, and they're like, yeah, so we're all basically screwed. There's like a 5-year gap, and I was like, dude, and I called it. There were so many things. I was sitting in the movie, and I was watching. It was myself. It was Comic Storian, Dan the editor. It was Gary the camera guy. It was Houston. Benny's brother Andy, it was DJ, the personal trainer of like Benny and all them, like, and then like myself and Mariah, and we were leaving the theater, we were coming back, and Mariah was like, I'm actually kind of amazed that like pretty much everything that happened in that movie you called. And I was like, I read comics, sweetheart. Like they're not doing anything that I haven't seen in the comics before, or at least having read comics for so long, after a while you can kind of hint on small things. There were some things I got wrong. I mean, I'm not a guru, I don't know everything, but like it was lucky yes, you know. And so it's cool. Like the movie was fantastic. It was it's the best comic book movie today. That's the cool thing. It didn't even really feel like a comic book movie, right? Like it just felt like a movie where like things were popping off, and like it was really dark. Like PG-13, it was borderline R-rated, if I'm being honest with you guys. Like sure, it was PG-13, but like they pushed the envelope more than a few times in that film. But dude, it was, oh my God, it was phenomenal. If you're on the fence about Avengers Endgame, do not be. Like, buy a ticket for whatever showing's available in 2 weeks, because you're not gonna be able to buy one anytime soon. Buy a ticket for whatever showing's available in 2 weeks and go watch it, because it is amazing. Like it's absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, basically we're in an alternate universe now. Captain America's the reason why, and this gives them the ability to kind of explore things, right? Because this is cool. Captain America being alive now is like, hey, look, like on the off chance of something like this, because here's a big thing that can come out of this. Here's one of the biggest things that can come out of this, right? Like Captain America goes back and says, hey, look, so like there's, you know, like we're only one planet in this huge, you know, infinitely expanding universe. Don't you guys think we should have some sort of system that like monitors space? And so then we get Sword. And like literally that's all it takes. It's a bug that Captain America plants in somebody's ear. And so in the present day, Sword's out there. You just got a Sword satellite just sitting out there, the Sentient World Observation and Response Department, just monitoring space, just keeping an eye on things. You know, it's there's so many things that you can bring out of this. So many little small things that you can do with this. But yeah, it's the one thing everybody forgets. So with that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.